Are you struggling to find the right guidance for your UPSC prelims and mains? Our GS Foundation course is just designed for you in both online and offline mode. Delhi and Bangalore based experienced faculty. Learn from the experts who knows UPSC inside out. Daily mains answer writing with instant evaluation and daily current affairs classes with current affairs monthly maxim. Remember one thing, we are the only one who are providing GS Foundation course along with daily answer writing practice with daily current affairs classes and monthly maxims. One-to-one personalized mentoring to clear all your doubts. Weekly test series with detailed evaluation feedback. And I will be available all the day in the institute from morning to evening just for you. The best part is all of this we are providing at an incredibly affordable price. Don't be late to join because this program is exclusively for serious aspirants who want to transform their preparation. Our new batch starts from 15 September onwards. Don't miss this opportunity because limited seats available. To enroll or for more details, please contact us on this number. Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session, we are going to see current affairs of 12th September 2025. So let's get started with our discussion. Before getting started, I want to make a small announcement. In our academy, we are going to start new prelims cum mains foundation batch from 15th of this September. If you want to know more details of this course or if you have any queries, so please do contact us on this number 8074765513, or else you can directly visit our academy which is located in Ashok Nagar exactly above Vikas Book Center, Hyderabad, guys. Okay, now let us see the first article, see the title. SSB detains 63 Nepal prison escapees, some claims to be Indians. So what is this article talking about? This article talking about the first one is SSB. What is this SSB? Sashastra Seema Bal. And it's talking about Nepal prison escapees. Okay, so this article is talking about two important things, guys. That is, one is India-Nepal relations. It is talking about India-Nepal relations. Second, you have to see about SSB. So from which subject you will be seeing this India-Nepal relations? From GS paper 2 under IR. So if you see location of Nepal, are we sharing direct boundary with Nepal? Yes, India is sharing direct boundary with Nepal. So here you have to see about, first thing is history of relations, when we started making relations with this Nepal. And second area that you have to see, areas of cooperation between India and Nepal. And third you have to see is, what are the challenges we have between India and Nepal, and you have to think about way forward. Okay, so if you see about areas of cooperation, this Nepal is a landlocked country. That means it is not having any sea border. Okay, so if you want to, okay, let me draw the map so that you can understand it very better. So here we have Nepal. If you see India is sharing boundary with this Arabian Sea. Here we have Bay of Bengal, and here we have Indian Ocean. That means India is having access to these waters so that it can do trade easily with other countries. So here we have Nepal, and here which country we have? China. So it is not having any access to water. So this kind of countries are called as landlocked countries. It is locked by land around it. So it is not having access to the water to do maritime trade. So if it wants to do the trade, what happens? So Nepal need to take help of India, or Nepal can take help of Bangladesh to have this access to this water, right? So actually here Nepal and India is sharing lots of cultural relations and as well as lots of historical relations. So if you see, we are sharing direct border here, right? So here, especially in this region, so here people will move here and they will have the maritime alliances. So especially India and Nepal is sharing maritime alliances between the people. That is the first thing. And next one here is, Nepal is there in this Himalayan region, right? So Himalayan regions are very famous for what? Perennial rivers. So we have Ganga river system, we have Brahmaputra river system, right? And these perennial rivers are known for fast flow of water. So because of this fast flow of water, we can generate hydroelectricity, right? So actually India is purchasing hydroelectricity from Nepal. So this is also one area of cooperation between India and Nepal. Apart from that, India will be helping this Nepal, especially for doing of trade with other countries. So regarding this trade also, we have good relations. But in the recent times, because of changing of government in this Nepal, so we are having certain challenges. So first important challenge here we have is about border. So actually what happened was Nepal released one of its new map. Nepal released new map. So in this new map, it included important regions of India. So first one is Lipu Lake. Next one is Kala Pani area. And third one is Limpiadura. Okay, so actually these three are part of India, but recently Nepal released map. In that map, it included three Indian regions, Lipu Lake, Kalapani and Limpiadura. So it is one important challenge between India and Nepal. And now you can add this second challenge. So what is happening in this Nepal? Instability, right? So what is the reason behind this present instability in this Nepal? So Nepal government banned around 26 social media apps. So because of this, what happened? Curbing of digital freedom and as well as curbing or restricting of these youth voices, that led to resignation of the present prime minister in this Nepal, right? So actually whenever these students are doing protests, whenever the students they started attacking of parliament, what this government did is like immediate curfew they imposed, and actually they arrested lots of people who involving in this protest. Now what happened? The people who are present in this jail, they're coming out of jail, okay, and they are crossing the border. So because of this, in the recent class what we discussed, so because of this instability in this Nepal, and especially the states which are sharing boundary with this Nepal, they are tightening the security across this India-Nepal border, right? So as part of it, now SSB, that is Sashastra Seema Bal, which is guarding our India-Nepal border, mainly detained, that is nothing but detained around 63 Nepal prisoners who escaped from this Nepal guys. So that is there in this news. And now here what is the challenge? Challenge here is because of this political instability in this Nepal, it will be having impact on our foreign policy and even our border security we have to improve it, or else it will be a threat to our territorial integrity and sovereignty. Okay. So these two important points that you have to see and try to collect what are the other challenges that we have between India and Nepal and other important areas of cooperation between India and Nepal. Okay. And you have to think about what can be done to improve relations between India and Nepal in the future. Okay, because you are also writing exam for this IFS, that is Indian Foreign Service. If you are placed in this embassy of India in Nepal, then you have to mediate with government of India and government of Nepal. So from now onwards, think about what challenges we have. So how you can solve this kind of issues between the countries. Okay, be diplomatic. So think in a diplomatic way. Okay. And here you have to see about this SSB. SSB is very important to maintain our internal security. So internal security itself is a subject in your GS paper 3 guys. So from that point of view you have to see this. And from SSB you may get prelims based question. Okay, now let us see this article, and especially we are going to see about this SSB. SSB is a part of Central Armed Police Force. That is nothing but CAPF. And it mainly guards the border between India and Nepal and as well as India and Bhutan. So here you have to see with which countries we are sharing boundary with and which forces they are guarding our borders with this international border. So you have to see that. So we have SSB which is mainly guarding India-Nepal border and as well as India-Bhutan border. And actually it is one of the 7 paramilitary forces that we have in our country. So we have other paramilitary forces like we have Assam Rifles, normally we can see in this northeastern region, and we have BSF which will be bordering our India-Pakistan and India-Bangladesh border, and we have CISF which will be providing security for industries, and even some important parliamentary buildings and airports will be guarded by the CISF. And as well as we have CRPF and we have Indo-Tibetan Border Police Forces. They will be guarding India-China border. And this one is we have National Security Guard, NSG. So they are nothing but anti-terrorist organizations. Okay. So here we have 7 paramilitary forces. So in that one is this SSB, and this SSB will be guarding India, Nepal, and as well as India-Bhutan border. And actually when it was formed in May 1963. Why? Because in 1962 one major event happened in Indian history, that was like India-China war. After this Indo-China war in 1962, we came up with this formation of this SSB in this 1963, and it comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. It will not come under Ministry of Defense at all. So we have Army, we have Navy, and we have Air Force. Those comes under Ministry of Defense. Other than this paramilitary forces comes under Ministry of Home Affairs, because they will protect India from external security threats. Especially they will be involved in this internal security issues inside our country. So because of this, they comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. And what are the responsibilities of this SSB? So they have to promote sense of security among the people who are living in these border areas. And they have to prevent trans-border crimes. So trans-border crimes includes like human trafficking, animal trafficking, arms trafficking, that is nothing but fake currency, like that. We have to prevent this kind of trans-border crimes. And next one here is they have to control unauthorized entry into or exit from our Indian territory. So we have to maintain the proper tight security so that others will be not entering in India, and Indians will be not entering into other countries' territory. So because of this, now they detained around 63 people who are coming from this Nepal. And they have to prevent smuggling or any other illegal activities on Indian frontiers. So these are the functions and responsibilities of this SSB. Okay, now let us see the next article. See the title, guys. Government contemplates raising civil border guards across China border. So what is this article talking about? It is talking about India-China border, right? And actually contemplates means nothing but it is thinking seriously about raising of civil border guards. Okay, let us see this article. And this article is talking about India-China relations. It is also important from your GS paper 2 under international relations. And they are talking about raising of civil border guards. So this article is talking about civil border guards. Okay, let us keep this aside and let us see about this India-China relations. Are we sharing direct boundary with this China? Okay, so here which line we have? LAC, line of actual control between India and China. So here we have China and we are sharing direct boundary with China. And here we have lots of issues with China at this western sector, at central sector and at the eastern sector, right? Okay, so as you all know that which force is guarding this India-China border? As I said, we have Indo-Tibetan Border Force. We have Indo-Tibetan Border Force, which comes under CAPF as we studied now. And apart from that, we also have our Indian Army, right? So Indian Army will also guard this border between India and China. So we have two forces. One is directly comes under Ministry of Defense and one is coming under Ministry of Home Affairs. So apart from this, now we are thinking that we have to raise even civilian border guards. Civilians are nothing but normal, common people, common Indian citizens, right? So actually what happens, so the areas where we are sharing boundary with this China and in areas where we have issues with China, so in that region we have to raise awareness to the people regarding what are the issues which are going on, and we have to recruit this civilians, nothing but citizens of India, to guard these areas. Why? Because civilians, they know clearly about their geography and they know about how the community are living and they know about who are insiders and who are outsiders. So if you are raising this civilian or civil border guards, it will be very helpful for our Indo-Tibetan border forces and as well as Indian army to control this escalations across this India-China border. And who are these civilians now? Who can come? So here volunteers, especially student volunteers, can contribute. And apart from that, this Indian army people, sometimes they will be also get retired, right? So here we can also take this retired army people or retired military people or retired police people that we can take, and we can raise the civil border guards. Okay, so that is about this article. So actually this our government of India, which is mainly focusing on, can we raise the civil border guards or not? Why? Because China is doing lot across the border. So if you see what China is doing, so first one is it is coming up with CPEC. What is a CPEC? China Pakistan Economic Corridor, right? And this China Pakistan Economic Corridor is mainly moving. It is nothing but the development of roads and as well as railways, especially infrastructure projects. And it is going across this LOC region, that is line of control. And it is going from China to Pakistan. Okay. And actually, this is passing through this LOC. Actually, LOC is integral part of our country, but now at present it is under control of Pakistan, right? So if it is going across India without India's permission, will India accept it? No. So because of this, it is one important cause of concern between India and China regarding this CPEC project. And apart from that, across the border, it is developing villages. They are called as model villages. So whenever they are developing the model villages and whenever people are coming and people are settling down in that area, is that become very easy for this China to occupy the regions? Yes. So to counter this, our country also came up with this vibrant village model. It is our country is also developing villages across the border between India and China. So tit for tat. And apart from that, China is coming up with improvement of infrastructure. And even our country is also focusing on improving of infrastructure. And China not only expanding its aggressiveness on this land, but even it is showing aggressiveness in the water also. So it is having lots of issues with not only India but even other countries. So to counter that, India is also having lots of measures. So China is coming up with one concept called as string of pearls. String of pearls is nothing but it is developing ports, especially in many countries which are sharing boundary with the water. So to counter this, India came up with this fish hook method. Okay, like that, we have lots of issues with China. So because of this, now our government is focusing on, can we improve this civil border guards or not? Okay, now let us see in detail, and this topic is very important from your GS paper to under international relations case. Okay, now let us see the context. So India's government is contemplating, that is thinking about the deployment of civil border guards along this China border. Why? To enhance local engagement, local people participation in the safety and security of our border, and even that will be helpful for increasing of surveillance across this border, and we can also decrease the tensions across this India-China border. So for all these things, now our government is thinking that can we raise this civil border guards or not? And actually this step which mainly reflects a shift towards local village populations, and especially we are going for giving training for them. They are trained civilian volunteers, and now onwards they will try to support our military so that we can boost our monitoring of remote, strategic and frontier zones. So if you see the details, you are saying that civil border guards, they would likely comprise like trained local villagers and ex-servicemen and civilian volunteers, and they are mobilized to patrol, and they will now report any incursions. That is nothing but if this Chinese army people they are entering into our India, they'll go and they'll report, and they will also assist security forces in the border districts, and they also very helpful for supplementing this militarized units like Indian Army and as well as ITBP, as I said, that is Indo-Tibetan Border Police Forces. And next one here is this model which is very successful for local policing, and actually we came up with this countering of development of villages of China across this border by this vibrant village program, right? So as a part of this program also government is training the local volunteers for reporting of this kind of incursions. So this will be also helpful for this program that is called as Vibrant Village Program. And if you see why India is considering this step, the first important reason is China has built up dual use border infrastructure and settlements by using the local relocations, and as well as they are expanding this Chinese army in this line of actual control region. So because of this, if you compare the infrastructure, technology and funds of this China with India, we are having very less. So because of this, at least now we can use the local people to improve the safety and security across this region. That is the first important reason. And this one is Indian border villages, they have been depopulating due to economic stress and reduced grazing lands, which is mainly weakening India's territorial presence. So actually what is happening here is, here if you see across this LAC region, we have Himalayas here. So in this Himalayas, normally only during summer season, because of melting of ice and snow, we can get the grazing lands, not all the time. So because of this, the tribal people who are present in that region, they will be going to this Himalayas or uplands only during summer season, but not in the winter season. And actually what is happening because of this climate change, so a lot of changes which are happening in the ecology and environment of that region. So because of this, these people who are living in this China border, they are not getting proper resources, proper economy, proper livelihood. So because of this, from here, the people are moving towards inwards. So because of this, normally we can say a very less population in this region. So if we have less population, can we have the proper monitoring? No. And even it will be becoming very easy for China to occupy this region. So because of this, now government wants to increase the population in this region through this civilian guards. If you are recruiting the local people as a volunteers to guard our borders, obviously we can improve their population there. That is the second idea. And second one is civil guards can act as eyes and ears of army. They will provide the real-time intelligence because they know clearly who are insiders and who are outsiders. If any outsider came into our country, we can easily report them. Okay. And next one is, what will be the impact of this decision? The first one here is we have positive outcomes. What are the positive outcomes? So we can improve our awareness about the situation to that local people. And local people now, they contribute for our security of our country. And not only that, we can also go for proper communication in these remote border zones. So now there will be good communication between the local people and as well as this army people, so that the proper communication can happen. And next one here is we can have as deterrence, even if there is any small incursions, if there is any small change in this Chinese movements, we can identify them and we can take proper steps immediately. And here we are also having certain risks and challenges. That is, sometimes it will also leads to local tensions and civilians loss of life can happen because of this kind of things. And we need to have a rigorous training and we need to have the proper coordination to avoid escalation as well. And even we have to give some weapons and we have to give some equipments for these local people also. So it will be also increasing of burden on the government regarding logistics. And next one is, so see this next article, guys. Intensify measures to control dengue and malaria, says Center. So what is this article talking about? It is talking about malaria and dengue. So actually, what is malaria and what is dengue? So malaria and dengue, they are nothing but the types of fevers, right? So it is mainly caused by, malaria is caused by Plasmodium, right? So that is nothing but a parasite. Malaria is caused by a parasite called as Plasmodium. And how many types of variants we can see in this Plasmodium? We have 4 variants, right? Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium falciparum, and Plasmodium vivax, right? So in all these 4 variants, about 57% of cases recorded by this Plasmodium falciparum in India. And recently, our government for the first time came up with indigenous vaccine for this malaria. Okay, and that name of that vaccine is Adfalcivax. Okay, you can write that. That is not given here in this article. Adfalcivax. So Adfalcivax is malarial vaccine which is completely A to Z developed in India, guys, and this work had been started. Soon we are going to get with this vaccine so that we can control this vaccine cases in India. And actually we already have vaccines for this malaria which had been approved by WHO, but they are not as much as effective as this Adfalcivax. So do you know the life cycle of this malarial parasite, anyone? So malarial parasite will be having life cycle in both mosquito and as well as humans, right? So in mosquito it is having half life cycle, and after that in human also we have next half cycle. So whenever this mosquito which is biting the human, what happens? So this malarial parasite in the form of sporozoites will enter into the will enter into our blood. So after it is enter into our blood, first it will affect which organ? Liver. And after it affecting liver and after growing in liver, now it will be affecting our RBC. So if it is affecting liver, that stage is called as pre-erythrocytic stage. That is nothing but before RBC affected, our liver will be affected. That is called as pre-erythrocytic stage. What is this erythrocytes? They are nothing but RBC, right? Erythrocyte, thrombocyte, leukocyte. Erythrocyte is nothing but other name of RBC. So before affecting RBC, it is affecting liver. So it is called as pre. Pre is nothing but before, pre-erythrocytic stage, and RBC is erythrocytic stage. So the present vaccine, that is Adfalcivax, will be giving protection for both liver and RBC stages, that is pre-erythrocytic and erythrocytic stage. So already, as I said, WHO had approved other vaccines for this malaria, but they will give only protection in this pre-erythrocytic stage only. That means the complete protection they won't give. So here, because of this, our indigenously made vaccine will be giving protection in the both the stages. So because of this, it is more effective. And actually we have a target of end malaria by 2030. Okay, so India's target is malaria free. Please make a note. Malaria free by 2027, and end malaria, completely eliminate malaria by 2030. If you want to reach this target, this vaccine is very, very important. And actually every year in India, 2 million cases of this malaria will be recorded, guys. And out of this, 0.9% of these people, they die and they contribute to the global deaths of malaria. So if you want to achieve this target, for sure we need vaccines, or else we can't reach this target. So on this target only our government is focusing, and they are coming up with indigenous made vaccine called as Adfalcivax. Okay, so here if you see this article, it's talking about intensify measures to control dengue and malaria. So I said about malaria so far, and what is dengue? Dengue is also a fever which is caused by virus, that is called as dengue virus. And the common point of this dengue and as well as malaria is they are caused by mosquito bite. So here, which mosquito bite causes this malaria? Female Anopheles mosquito, yes. And which mosquito bite causes dengue? Aedes aegypti mosquito. There are two different mosquito. Aedes aegypti mosquito causes dengue and Anopheles mosquito causes malaria. So actually one more important point that I want to say is dengue is not caused by the mosquito bite of night time. So only during daytime, whenever you are getting this mosquito bite, that is a mosquito which causes dengue, guys. That is the one difference here. One more thing that you have to see. Okay, actually in our today's newspaper, there are two articles which are related to this mosquito related diseases. Okay, let us see those two. So now this article is saying that now we are in this monsoon season. So what happens in this monsoon season? Rainfall happens, and here and there water stagnation happens, right? So because of this water stagnation, what happens? Mosquito population increases or decreases. So now these this water stagnation leads to the breeding sites. They will act as a breeding sites for mosquito, so that they'll come and they'll lay eggs, and that eggs will be hatched into larvae, and larvae to mosquitoes, right? This is the life cycle of mosquito. So there is increased number of mosquitoes. So because of this, there is also increased chances of dengue and malaria cases, especially during the months of October, November and December. We'll record more number of dengue cases, especially in areas where we have water stagnation. So you can get that kind of article soon. Especially there will be increased dengue case in Delhi and as well as Hyderabad. You will be getting this kind of articles case. So you can follow that. So actually what government is doing here is yes, we have to take some intensified measures to control dengue and as well as malaria, because in the post-monsoon conditions, there will be emergence of new breeding sites. So we have to focus on proper surveillance, and as well as community engagement is very important so that we can take some rapid actions to decrease the spread of this disease. So actually this article is saying that recent heavy rains, they caused widespread water stagnation, which is creating ideal mosquito breeding environments. So because of this, it is mainly triggering spike in dengue and malarial cases in several states, especially in Delhi and Maharashtra. There is increased case of malaria and dengue, guys. And actually this monsoon and post-monsoon period historically represents high risk season, and that leads to this vector borne diseases. And this article is saying that this year we have recorded more number of cases of this dengue and malaria compared to that of previous years, even because of climate change. Climate change is happening, there is increasing of temperature. So because of increasing of temperature, then mosquito can survive for long period of time and they can go for more reproduction. So your climate change is affecting humans, but it is supporting mosquitoes population. So that is also one important reason that we can say why there had been increased number of cases this year. Okay, and actually this article is saying that we achieved a lot in reducing of this malaria over past decade, but we have a goal of ending of malaria free India by 2030, guys. So here now we are having a fear that whether we are going to reach this target or not. So what measures we can take, guys? The first one here is government is saying that all states, they have to prepare and they have to submit targeted action plans within 20 days for all chief ministers and health ministers personally overseeing the reviews. So if central government is saying all those things, and who will be doing that ground report? You people have to do that. So if there is any direction from central government, then you will be getting burdened because you have to make that action plan. So you have to know clearly so what is happening and who are doing these things. And next one is municipal bodies, panchayats and communities, they are intensifying public awareness campaigns, and especially they are focusing on reducing of this stagnation of the water nearby. And this one is they are focusing on vector control efforts like fogging. Do you know this fogging? So normally once in 2 days or 3 days, you can see this municipality van will come and just they'll spray some insecticide. It will be like a smoke. That is called as fogging. I don't know whether it is effective or not, but it will cause lots of pollution in the air, and even it will release this very bad smell. If you inhale that, it will be causing some health problems also, right? If you are having allergy to certain things. So first one is fogging, and next one is larvicides. So larvicides are nothing but the chemical that we can use to kill this larva in this stagnated water. And next one is they are focusing on distribution of long lasting insecticidal nets. That is nothing but normally they are called as mosquito nets. We can use that mosquito net so that we can prevent from this mosquito bites. And this one is even hospitals, they have to ensure adequate preparedness like availability of proper drugs, proper medicines they have to maintain, and even diagnostic facilities, beds, and also strict mosquito control within the premises. And even we are focusing on enhanced real-time disease monitoring platforms, like we need to come up with integrated health management platform. And this one, yes, we are also focusing on the areas where there are spikes, that's more number of cases, and we have to go for high level reviews in that regions, and we have to plan accordingly in that region. So here in this way they are giving certain guidelines, but if you want to add any point here, we can add. So one point I can say is you might have studied in your 6th or 7th class that there is one fish called as Gambusia fish. So this Gambusia fish will be feeding on this larvae. So wherever we have water bodies or stagnation of water, we can leave these fishes so that they will feed on this larvae. So that is the one natural control method of this mosquito, guys. And do you know, whenever we have this stagnation of water, we have to just pour kerosene or oil, so that what happens, mosquitoes cannot sit on that because of density issues. So it can't lay the egg. So like that we can take simple steps so that we can prevent the stagnation of water. And even normally in our house also we will be keeping some bowls for the food for this birds or water for the birds. So we have to clean it daily, and as well as we should ensure that these are not filled with this rainy water. Okay, like that. Because if water is left in that kind of things, so within 3 to 4 days you can see compulsory larva in that region. Okay, so you have to take proper steps. and you have to keep your surroundings neat and clean, guys. And see this article, CP Radhakrishnan to take oath as vice president. So this article is talking about our new vice president, right? So from last 1 month onwards, we are discussing about this topic. I don't want to repeat that once again. But here, why I took this article is because of his taking oath. And every year you will be getting questions regarding this vice president or president or prime minister for sure, at least 2 questions in your prelims. So here this year, vice president is very, very important, and students who are going to write this year prelims, keep star mark for this vice president topic in your Lakshmikant. For sure, you will get a question. And here this is talking about oath. So actually, they will compare the oath of vice president, oath of prime minister, oath of Supreme Court judge, or oath of CJI, or oath of like vice president, like that. So actually, this article is saying that our vice president will take oath of office as vice president, where in Rashtrapati Bhavan, and who will be administering oath? Our president. So here you may get a question. So who will administer the oath of vice president? And in this options you will get president, speaker, like that. So here president will administer oath of vice president, guys. Very, very important. So to show that point, I took this article, guys, practically. Okay, now let us see the next article. India, Mauritius, not just partners, but a family, says Modi. So what is this article talking about? It is talking about India, Mauritius relations, right? So where is this Mauritius located? Any idea? Actually, I forgot to add this map. So where is this Mauritius located? So here we have Madagascar. Okay, I'll show you one more image. Yeah, can you see this map here? So here we have India, right? Can you see India? So this is India, and this is which continent? Africa. This is a small island called as Madagascar, and here near Madagascar we have this island called as Mauritius. And this article is talking about India-Mauritius relations. So now based on this geography, tell me, why is this Mauritius important for India or not? Why it is important? Because it is located in Indian Ocean. So what is the aim of India in this Indian Ocean? We have to ensure free and fair trade in this Indian Ocean region, and there is increased importance of Indo-Pacific region now because of trade, right? So because of this, we need to have proper relations with this Mauritius so that India's presence in this Indian Ocean can be increased. So now let us see this article, and this is very, very important from your GS paper 2 under international relations. So most of the articles are there from your international relations, guys. Okay, now let us see the context. India and Mauritius are described by our Prime Minister as not just partners, but a family. We are like family due to the centuries old cultural, historical and civilizational ties. And even we are sharing strategic interest, and even we are having economic and security cooperation in this Indian Ocean region. So because of this, our Prime Minister said that this Mauritius is not just a relation or a country. So we are like a family. We are a part of a family. So now let us see the details why the statement given by our Prime Minister. So here Mauritius had around 70% of ethnic Indian population. Why they becomes a family? 70% of population of this Mauritians are from India, and they link it to ancestors because they are indentured labor during the British rule. So what happened in this modern period was, in the modern period, India was under rule of Britishers. So Britishers have India as a colony, like that they have different colonies, and the different colonies for labor, they took Indians as laborers to work in other colonies. So because of this, around 70% of its population, they are of Indian origin. They are the ancestors of our Indians, because they went to that region as indentured laborers and they were taken by the Britishers at that time. So because of this, they are from India. So they share proper culture of India. They also celebrate the festivals of India. Okay, and these languages, festivals, and Indian culture is important part of Mauritian life. Okay, so because of this, culturally also we are sharing lot of similarities. And this one is India was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic ties with this Mauritius after its independence. Okay, and even India is supporting this Mauritians, especially for the development, for the building of for the building of trust, etc. And if you see what is this partnership now we are talking about, it is very important. So first one is India announced a special economic package of around $680 million now to Mauritius. And in that economic package, we are going for construction of a hospital and even schools, veterinary and as well as Ayush centers, helicopters, sport equipment, budgetary assistance. So all these things are covered under that special economic package too. Mauritius. And we're also going to sign certain agreements, and these agreements are focusing on education, healthcare, infrastructure, maritime security, and local currency trade, etc. And actually, Mauritius is a part of India's neighborhood first policy. Okay, and even India is upgrading Mauritius strategic assets in Indian Ocean, especially why? Because we have to counter this Chinese aggressive policy in this waters, and we are focusing on port redevelopment, maritime surveillance, and even we are focusing on exclusive economic zone security as well. So in all these areas, we are focusing now. So see this article, title says clearing the fog, need for revised strategies against Aedes mosquito. So actually Aedes mosquito causes which disease? I said now. They causes dengue, not malaria. Malaria is caused by female Anopheles and dengue is caused by this Aedes aegypti mosquito. So this article is mainly saying that Aedes mosquito adapts well to human settings. So actually what happened, based on the conditions, we will have changes in our body, right? That is called, initial changes are called as acclimatization and long-term changes are called as adaptations. So actually this mosquito are well adapted to human settings. So this article is saying that it started feeding in indoors during daytime. So it is getting whatever the food it wants in indoors itself, and at the night time even under artificial light. So we have lights, like, right, in our home there are artificial lights. So even they are well adapted to get food even in this artificial light also. So because of this, what are the methods that we are doing outdoor? So normally what municipality will do, just they will go for fogging, that is the outdoor things. And even we are using vaporizers in our home, right? That is nothing but good night, all out, whatever it may be. So we are using that vaporizers, and even sometimes we are using bed nets. So all these are ineffective for this Aedes aegypti mosquito. Okay, so what are the steps that we are taking? For everything it had been adapted. Even if you are using good night also, this Aedes aegypti mosquito will not get affected. So here this article is saying that municipal corporations and as well as some resident welfare associations, they should stop depend only on fogging. So what government will say? Yes, we are going for fogging, we are going for spraying of this insecticides like that, and they will make the record like in this day, in this time we did that, and our work is done. So here this article is saying that we should not only depend on this fogging, because these mosquitoes now they are inside the home, they are well adapted and they are cohabiting with humans. So if you are spraying this fungicides or everything outside, then it will be not having any impact on this Aegypti mosquito. And you are saying that we have to come up with top to down and bottom up features. So we have to focus on especially the areas where people are much more vulnerable with this Aegypti mosquito, and we have to take steps in their houses. So here in houses, what can we do? We can go for loose clothing that covers almost most of the body as possible. And this one is, we can also use safe non-insecticides, and we have to go for removing of larval breeding sites. So like that we can take some new strategies. So think, because you are from technological background, you are from like you completed engineering and you came from the different backgrounds, right? So think like how can we come up with a solution for this mosquito which is cohabiting with human inside the house. So what can be done? So think from your way and give some suggestions to the government. Okay. Yeah, now let us see here one more. Yeah, there are two more articles here. So this article is talking about a project of strategic and national importance. So this topic is talking about Great Nicobar Island project. So what we are doing under this project, we are developing transshipment boat, and we are developing township, we are developing airport, and as well as nuclear plant in this Nicobar region. And where is this Nicobar region is located? So here we have Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right? So this is our Nicobar. Upper part is Andaman and down part is Nicobar. And actually this region was hit badly in this 2004 tsunami, and our southernmost tip called as Indira Point had been submerged during this 2004 tsunami. So if you're going for development projects in that region, is that environmentally sustainable? Actually we are going to cut around how many millions of trees? So actually they said that we are going to cut like 50,000 of trees, but the number is much more beyond 1 or 2 millions of trees. Okay, so if you are going for cutting down of that many trees, is that good for environment? Can we reach our targets? Okay, so let us consider that, okay, even though if you are cutting down the trees, we are going for development of our country. But this region is tectonically not stable. It is vulnerable to earthquakes, it is vulnerable to volcanoes. If you are going for development projects in this region also, it is not good. And even it is vulnerable, it is also leading to the displacement of this Shompen and as well as Nicobaris tribes completely. Where they'll go? So where they'll stay? What about their livelihood? And even this region is very famous for certain vulnerable animal species like leatherback turtles. So what about that animals? So lots of concerns which are coming up. But this region is located in Indian Ocean region, and it is very much near to one of our choke point called as Malacca Strait. It is located here, and this Malacca Strait is very important because around 1/3 of world's trade happens in that region. If you're going for development in this region, obviously it will be contributing to our economy, but it will be having lots of economical and as well as ethical and social impact. So you have to see all those things, guys. Okay. So already we discussed that. Nothing more. Okay, see this article, relief for refugees. India, Sri Lanka must help voluntary repatriation of refugees. Okay, again, this is very important article from your international relations, guys. So this is Sri Lanka, and here we have which state? Tamil Nadu. So in yesterday's class, we discussed about what is a fisherman issue and what is Kachativu Islands and what is 1974 agreement between Indira Gandhi government and that Sri Lankan government, right? And one more issue which is the same area, that is refugees issue. Okay, so if you see the background, here we have Sri Lanka and here we have Tamil Nadu, and border is called as Pak State or Gulf of Mannar. Okay, so what happened was around 1970s. So there were anti-Tamil riots happened. Not only anti-Tamil riots, here we have like LTTE issue also there. So because of this, most of this Sri Lankan Tamils present in Sri Lanka is called as Sri Lankan Tamils. So they entered into Tamil Nadu. Okay, so after they entered into Tamil Nadu, our government set up some refugee camps. So in that camps, they started living. And not only in that camps, even outside of the camps also they came and they set up. And slowly from this area, they spread to most of all our states. So actually what our government of India did is, so we should not give citizenship. So Indian citizens should not be given to the Sri Lankan Tamilians. So this order was sent by our government of India to almost all the states. So actually government of India made a statement that the people who entered India before January 2015, they are not illegal migrants. We have to give citizenship for them. But on another side, here government of India said that we should not give citizenship for these Tamilians, that is nothing but Sri Lankan Tamilians who came from Sri Lanka into India. So because of this, even today from last 40 years onwards, they are living in India, but they don't have any citizenship. Okay, so that is the issue which is going on in India. It is about these refugees. They are called as Sri Lankan Tamils. So normally in our Citizenship Amendment Act, sorry, Citizenship Act of 1955, what it says, we can get citizenship through naturalization, right? Naturalization means nothing but if you are living around 7 years, you can apply for the citizenship, right? So whenever these people, they are applying for this citizenship from last 40 years onwards. So because of this order which is given by the government of India that we should not give citizenship for this people, so even though if they are applying for the citizenship, their applications are not processing even till today. So that is the issue between India and Sri Lanka regarding citizenship of this Sri Lankan Tamilians, guys. So this article is talking about the same thing. So here this article is saying that the formulation of Immigration Foreigners Order 2025 notified that Union Ministry of Home Affairs provides a greater clarity on certain issues concerning India's immigration framework. So actually it mainly exempts a set of people from requirement of valid passport or other valid travel document and valid visa to enter, stay and exit country. So actually it covers nationals of Nepal and Bhutan, Tibetan refugees and 6 minorities from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Sri Lankan Tamils. Okay, so here from last 40 years onwards, we are not giving them the citizenship. So now in 2025, we came up with one Immigration and Foreigners Order. So through this now we are going to give some exemptions for these people, and in that now Sri Lankan Tamils were also included. So we have to hope for the best, like whether these people will be getting citizenship in India or not. Okay, so you have to think about what are the problems of citizenship in India, and you have to think about what is the impact if these people are not getting citizenship from last 40 years, which kind of issues you are facing. They will be having issues regarding education, property rights, land rights and employment opportunities, everything, right? So if you want to write any government examination, they have to see like reservation based on the locals, but these people are not getting that despite of living around 40 years in India. Okay, so all these things that you have to see, guys. Okay, so that's it. So these are the some important topics that appeared in our today's Hindi newspaper. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and please do like this class and share this class, and please do follow us on our Instagram also, where we are providing prelims question along with answer, and as well as mains question with model answer, and also current affairs in short, guys. And one more thing here is, if you want to get this PDF of this class, you can join the Telegram channel. Link is given in the description box. And thank you so much, guys.